Hello, Harmony Heroes. Welcome back to the Music in Our Homeschool podcast. I'm your host, Gina Mayo, and today we're diving into the life and music of one of the most important composers in history, Joseph Haydn, often called the father of the symphony. If you've ever listened to a symphony orchestra or heard classical music with multiple movements, you probably have Joseph Haydn to thank in a very real way because he helped shape what a symphony even is. So today we're going to learn about his life, his music, and some fun and surprising things about his personality that make him such a delight to study. If you are a homeschooler looking for ways to easily and affordably include a quality music education in your homeschool, you've come to the right place. This is the Music in Our Homeschool podcast. I'm Gina Mayo, homeschooling mom of 8 and music teacher for over 30 years. Joseph Haydn was born in 1732 in a small village in Austria called Rohrau. Now, this wasn't a big musical city. It was a quiet place, and his family was not wealthy. His father made wagons, and his mother worked as a cook. But here's something I love. Music was still a part of their home. His parents loved to sing together, and young Joseph showed musical talent very early. By the age of 6, Haydn left home to live with a relative so he could receive better musical training. That's very young, and life wasn't always easy, but he learned to play instruments like the violin and harpsichord and began to understand how music worked. Soon, his beautiful singing voice earned him a spot as a choir boy at St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, one of the most important musical cities in Europe, and at one of the most important churches in the city. But then something happened. As a teenager, his voice changed, of course, as all boys' voices do, and he could no longer sing his part in the choir. So he was out on his own, and he had to find ways to survive. He tried teaching lessons, playing music, and taking odd jobs. But here's where one of the most important parts of this story comes in. He decided to teach himself how to compose. He studied books and practiced and struggled and slowly became skilled at writing music. This is such an encouraging moment for us as homeschoolers because it reminds us that growth doesn't always come from perfect lessons or easy paths. Sometimes it comes through perseverance. Eventually, Haydn was hired by a very wealthy family called the Esterházy family. This was a big deal because at this palace, his only job was to write music, conduct the orchestra, put on performances, and entertain guests. He stayed in that role for nearly 30 years. And because the palace was far away from the main musical cities, Haydn said, "I was cut off from the world, so I had to become original." Isn't that fascinating? Because he was somewhat isolated, he had the freedom to experiment, and so he did. And during this time, he wrote over 100 symphonies. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about what exactly is a symphony. A symphony is a long piece of music written for an orchestra to play. An orchestra is the group of musicians up on a stage, usually divided into the 4 musical families: strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion. Before Haydn, symphonies actually didn't have a consistent structure, but he helped standardize what we now think of as a symphony. It's in 3 or 4 movements. His were typically 4. Movement 1 was usually fast. Movement 2, slow and expressive. Movement 3 was dance-like, often in 3/4 time. And movement 4 had a fast and exciting finale. Because he established the structure so clearly, he earned the nickname Father of the Symphony. Now, let's head back over to his personality, which was playful and clever. He had a great sense of humor. He actually put jokes into his music. Let me tell you about 2 of my favorite examples. The Surprise Symphony is Symphony number 94, and it's called Surprise Symphony because he does something unexpected in the second movement. It starts off very soft, pianissimo, and then all of a sudden there is a loud bang from the instruments, playing fortissimo, very loud. It's a chord that surprises the listener. Now, why did Haydn do this? Some people say it was to wake up audience members who were getting sleepy. Others think he was just being playful. Either way, it works, and it's a perfect example to teach kids about dynamics, the loudness and softness of music. By the way, if you head over to the accompanying blog post to this episode, the music is there that you can listen to. I have a Spotify playlist that has lots of his great music, and there's a printable pack that you can purchase to go along with the music lesson as well. Now, the second example where he used his fun personality is in the Farewell Symphony, number 45. At the time, musicians working for the Esterházy family had to stay at the palace for long periods, and they missed their families and wanted to go home periodically. So Haydn wrote a symphony where, at the end, the musicians left the stage one by one. This was back before electricity, so they had candles burning on their music stands, and they would stand up, blow out their candles, and walk off the stage. Eventually, at the end of the symphony, when you usually have all the instruments playing and it's a very loud, majestic ending, there were only two violinists left, playing very quietly a little duet. Message received, and the prince of the Esterházy family allowed the musicians to go home for a break. Later on in life, Haydn became famous across Europe. He even traveled to London, where he wrote some of his most celebrated works, including his final symphony, which is called the London Symphony, number 104. And here's another important connection. Haydn met and influenced a young composer named Ludwig van Beethoven. Beethoven would go on to bridge the classical and romantic eras of music, but he built on the foundation that Haydn helped create. Haydn lived a long life, passed away in 1809 at the age of 77. When you listen to Haydn's music, listen for the orchestra made up of the four instrument families. Now, as we're wrapping up today, remember that Joseph Haydn's story is such a powerful reminder that great things can come from humble beginnings. Creativity can grow in unexpected places, and joy and even humor can be a part of serious art. Haydn didn't just write music, he helped shape the future of music, and he did it with curiosity, discipline, and fun. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Composer Spotlight about Joseph Haydn. Next time, we'll explore even more ways to include music education easily in your homeschool. Until then, keep listening, keep learning, and keep making music a part of your everyday homeschool life. Bye for now.